bring in Maurice Jones-Drew, NFL Network analyst, a former NFL running back. He was the radio analyst for yesterday's Rams-Saints game. Mojo, good to have you on again. How are you?
I'm doing well, Dan. How are you?
I'm doing okay. Let me ask you the poll question here. The best triplet combination in the NFL, if I gave you Breeze, Kamara, and Thomas, Mahomes, Hunt, and Hill, Goff, Gurley, Cooks, Rivers, Gordon, Allen, Roethlisberger, Connor, or Antonio Brown?
That's tough. After last night watching the Saints, it's hard to say. It's hard to go against the Saints and what they were able to do at home. I think all those are great combinations. The only problem with the Rams one is you have to pick one of the three wide receivers, and that's what makes them special, is that they have three guys. But I would go Breeze, Kamara, and Michael Thomas after seeing that last night.
Who scores more points this year, Todd Gurley or the Buffalo Bills?
Todd Gurley. And that's no disrespect to the Buffalo Bills, but we know what Nathan Peterman is. And so in this situation, you're not giving yourselves a chance. Like, you have to – sometimes in business, we have to do things that we don't want to that's better for the program. And we always hear people say, this is better for the team, and we're going to actually take a pay cut because it's better for the team, or we're going to ask you, we're going to cut you because it's better for the team. Well, you may need to sign Colin Kaepernick because it's better for the team. Nathan Peterman isn't the answer. Derek Anderson came in and gave it his best try. He's not the answer. And while your young quarterback is hurt and doesn't have an elbow, you need to give your guys hope and an opportunity that they can be confident to go into a game and win. And after seeing, watching some highlights and catching up some of the game last night, because I was just like, wow, 41-9. There wasn't a lot of hope out there.
As far as the game that you saw, though, with the Rams and Saints, you learned more about the Saints or the Rams in that game last night?
I think you learned a lot about both. For me, it was the Rams had an opportunity early in the first half when they got a turnover to go and take that game over. Anytime you're at home and you're in a hostile environment like the Dome, you have to be able to go and score points. You have to be able to put yourself in position to be to really take the crowd out of it. Now, I was high up calling the game, and the crowd noise, well, you could still hear it, but on the field I heard it was deafening. And so when you got that fumble from Mark Ingram, it was really imperative to go in there and get at least three, and you came out with zero there. And that was something that Coach McVay talked about, just being better in those situations. And then, you have to score. When you play the Saints, we all know this. You have to score. And then when I learned that was more on the Rams. When I learned about the Saints, their defense is very opportunistic. They find ways to try to get the ball out. Granted, the Rams went up and down the field on them, but they had the turnover that they were able to gather and then score right away off of right before half, which put them out to that 35-14 lead. And so I really thought you had two really good teams playing against each other whose defenses weren't really executing at a high level, but the offenses were flying well, and that's how you have to win. They were finding ways to try to win games.
Yeah, the Rams defense, and we've seen this before where teams try to build a super defense. You bring in parts and then you try to make it work. And the secondary is a big concern there. I know if you're scoring 35 points, you're going to win most games in the NFL, but do you see that as a bigger issue as we get closer to the playoffs for the Rams, that secondary?
No, not really. I think Aqib Talib going out it was definitely a problem. Because normally when Aqib first was in there early this year, he covered the top receiver majority of the time. They really didn't switch sides unless they had to. And so when he was in, he would cover, I want to say he was covering Keenan Allen when they were playing the Chargers, and they put Marcus Peters on Mike Williams. And so in those situations, when you have a guy like Aqib who's, seasoned, has played some of these guys, has been around, he can use some of the knowledge he's gained throughout his career to play some of these different number one wide receivers. Well, Marcus Peters, he's used to being a gambler, a guy who plays off coverage, who does different things, and you're asking him to do something completely different here. So he's going to have mistakes. And he owned up to it after the game when he was being interviewed about, it's on me. It's not on anyone else. I know I'm better than this. I have to play better than this. And as an organization, as a team, they just have to figure out ways to put their guy, put him in a position, if he is covering these number one guys, to make sure that he's comfortable, really, at the end of the day.
He's Maurice Jones-Drew, the NFL Network analyst, former NFL running back. Any problems with Michael Thomas' celebration with the cell phone?
Not at all. Not why? We have these rules to celebrate. Why would there be a problem? I actually, shout out to Joe Horn. I think I was a young kid when he did that. Was that 98? Did he do that in 98?
I thought it was like 2003.
Well, I was in high school then. Yeah, so I was still a young lad trying to find my way around this world. It really inspired me to celebrate when I saw that. But I think it's all. I mean, listen, first of all, that was a great play, a ballsy throw by Drew Brees with the game on the line. You're going to throw a go route.
I know.
And I mean those type of things. And I know there's a lot of players that talked about it, about him being the Mike Tyson looking for the knockout punch all the time, and that's a great mindset. But to throw that type of ball in that situation, that takes a lot of guts from everybody. And so they ran that play before. I want to say a third down right before that, and he threw it to the other side and gave the Rams. They got out, and I guarantee you Michael Thomas was like, I had Marcus Peters one-on-one throw the go ball to me. So they came back to it, and they did a phenomenal job executing. And when you do that, you get a chance. And that's what you get to do. You won the game.
Yeah,
that's what you're supposed to do, I felt like.
Yeah, I think the timing of it, though, it was still a tight game. And you had blown an 18-point lead. So.
No, I think you're right, but you know what?
I like the celebrations though, Mojo. I do. I just in that situation, I just thought, you know what? You're playing against the Rams. And maybe this is where he gets national attention and people realize just how great he is. Maybe it's sad that he needed that to get national attention because he is an elite. He's one of the top 5 receivers in the game, I think. So, maybe.
Oh no, yeah.
I mean, he's a fun player. I also wanted to ask you a couple more things. Running backs doing, hurdling now. Like, why has this become a new trend here where these guys are trying to leapfrog defenders?
You got to protect your legs. I was lucky and fortunate enough that I was so short that guys, they had to go lower than they thought. But for some of these tall guys, you have to protect your knees and your legs. That's how guys are tackling you. So the way to do it is to jump now. I mean, Alvin Kamara did it in the Rams-Saints game. Todd Gurley has done it multiple times. I want to say, did James Conner do it as well? I mean, guys are starting to hurdle because McCaffrey done it. He's a little bit taller than me, too. I wouldn't say he's too much taller than me. I think he may be having, like, some stuff in his shoes. But when you're a dynamic running back and you're going against safeties and corners, all they try to do is take your legs out. And so for me, my deal was trying to figure out how to either shake them or lower my shoulder on them because I knew they couldn't get as low as I could. But the other thing was to make sure that that you protect your knees because that's your resume, right? If you look at any running back, if your knees go down, if your knees get hurt or you go down, immediately teams and coaches are going to say you're worn out and you're over and done with. So you got to make sure you protect your money.
And that leads us to LeVeon Bell. Last time you were on, you were very vocal and had great opinions about you. You thought LeVeon Bell was doing the right thing. I said, you're betting on yourself. He's lost this bet, because James Conner is.
How did he lose the bet?
Because he's not getting paid, and James Conner has, they don't miss him. James Conner is having a better year than LeVeon Bell had last year.
This was first of all, this was never about James Conner having a better year than Le'Veon Bell. This was never the situation. The whole reason he's not there is to preserve his body.
Yeah, but the Steelers, the Steelers were betting on James Conner.
But it's not about. See, that's. I think that's where everything is misconstrued. It wasn't. This has never been about James Conner or the Steelers. This is about Le'Veon preserving his body. Because if you go out, how many touches has James Conner had throughout the course of the season? I know you have researchers there. Can they look it up? Catches and carries. I think he's close to 200 or 300 or 200 right now, and it's halfway through the year.
He's got 151 carries, and he's got 38 catches.
So that's 100. That's 180. So you times that by 2. That's 360. Right, 360 touches where you're getting hit on every one of those.
Okay,
that's what Le'Veon Bell was saying. Like, I'm not going to let you go out here and put 400 carries on me, 400 touches on me again. And so this has never been an argument like where I think we see this a lot where it's like the players are fighting for money. Le'Veon's not fighting for money; he's fighting to preserve his body. And so that's why he said, I'm not going to show up. And I wrote an article for NFL.com, and everyone should go out and look at it. It was in week 1 about what I felt Le'Veon should do in this situation, because this is not an argument over cash. This is an argument over preserving his body. And so we all see it as James Conner's doing well. Le'Veon's been texting James Conner every week, telling him great job, because this had nothing to do with him.
Well, then why?
It really had to do with the amount. Go ahead.
Why would Le'Veon Bell come back at all then?
Well, he has to come back to get the accredited season. He has to come back to get the accredited season to then get transition tagged. Now, once you get transition tagged, you can go out there and negotiate with any team you want to and get a deal done, and then Pittsburgh has to match it. Now, with the way James Conner is playing, right, because it's a win-win for everybody. With the way James Conner is playing, do you think Pittsburgh will match a $40 million deal for Le'Veon Bell?
No.
Okay, exactly. So Le'Veon then gets what he wants, gets to play for a team, and then guess what? Pittsburgh gets James Conner, who's been playing well. Both sides win. It's good to go. Both sides can win in this situation.
But do you think the teams are going to – they want Le'Veon Bell? A guy who doesn't want to play. A guy who doesn't want – so what happens in the last year of your contract?
Yeah, it's not that he doesn't want to play. He wants to play, but he had to make a business decision to preserve his body.
Okay, but then I get to the last year of his deal with the next team, Mojo, and then he's going to pull the same thing.
Not really. I think if you're going to use that argument, the slippery slope argument, then I think that's a horrible argument. I think if he's 27 now, you sign him to a deal, he knows by the time he's 32, 31, that he has to go out there and show that he can run at that age. Very simple. I mean, that it has nothing to do with it. You got to remember, at running backs, ages play into all these different things.
Yeah.
And so that's all it is. This is literally, he's in his prime of his career, and I'm going to tell you why teams are going to sign him. Because when you hear about Todd Gurley, you talk about the top running backs, everyone says, yeah, but Le'Veon's not playing. Which means what? That you still have that thought in your mind that Le'Veon is still one of the top backs in the league when he's on the field. So, as the next team, you get Le'Veon to come in, okay, after he's going to play when he comes in to camp before this deadline, or when he comes to the team before this deadline, he's going to play some. And when he plays some, you're going to see if he's still the same old Le'Veon.
Yeah, but am I allowed to load him up, though? Mojo, am I allowed to load him up with touches here, or is he going to go, hey, you got to put it...
You're allowed to do whatever you want once he gets in the building. But 6 weeks of carries versus 16 weeks of carries, I think teams would appreciate that a little bit more. Right or wrong?
We'll disagree on it. You see it from a running back.
I gotta come on the show. I see it from a player's perspective, not a team's perspective. I understand the team side. Oh,
I understand.
Another year of production.
I understand Le'Veon Bell's perspective here on it. Absolutely. I get where he would do it. It's, I liken it to CeCe Sabathia in his last year in Milwaukee. It felt like they pitched him every other day because they knew they weren't going to re-sign him, and then he goes to the Yankees. I understand that.
Exactly.
Yeah, absolutely. I get it. I just think Le'Veon Bell, how's he going to get that money back that he's lost $8 million?
You know what? And $8 million sounds a lot to a lot of people who don't make that type of money, which is fine. He can get that money back, but what he can do is preserve his body to make the $40 million. So would you ever sacrifice $8 million to make $40?
You're going to make $40 million.
Everyone would say yes. Not if he played Dan, if he got 400 touches 3 years back to back to back, do you think some other team is going to pay him $40 million after having 1,200 carries in 3 years?
It depends on how productive he is.
I don't think so.
All right.
Well, I think teams will come in and say, well, he's had this many carries, this many times from the business side, and that's an issue. So if it's up to me, and I think I personally feel, and I have to answer your question about Mike Thomas too after this before we go. I personally feel that Le'Veon made a decision. He stuck with that decision where most players don't stick with it. I was a player that didn't stick with that decision. And so he's ridden this thing out to the point where he's given himself the best chance to maximize his earning potential in the future.
Yeah.
That's all you can do in this situation.
I know. I got it.
Football is 100.
I know.
Right, because football is 100% injury sport. So you have to be able to try to maximize your potential. He's done that.
I know.
And so we can't – everyone keeps saying, like, James Conner has done this. And granted, I'm going to say this with all respect to James Conner and everything that he's done. He's done a phenomenal job. But when teams will come into Pittsburgh, they don't say we're trying to stop James Conner like they do LeVeon Bell. And that's why AB and Big Ben were having such problems early in the year. That's why AB was so upset. Because when Le'Veon Bell's on the field, AB's to the defense is the second guy. And so now, AB, you're now the first guy, so they're seeing coverage tilted towards him until teams started. Now James Conner's starting to get going, so teams like, okay, we have to now consider this young man who's playing really well as a viable threat. And that's all it is. And so teams are starting to consider James Conner now as a viable threat, but early in the year, it was all about stopping AB and Big Ben, and that's why that team was struggling. Very simple. Now, I have to answer your Mike Thomas celebration question. What high school did you go to?
Mason High School.
And who was your rival?
Everybody.
No, but you had one rival. You had a team that you always played in the same city or something. You know, you had some stuff going on.
It was Springboro, but I owned Springboro, so not really a rival.
So listen, the Saints have done a great job of really playing well over the last couple of years. The Rams are coming up. And actually, I heard Coach Payton say it. He was like, everyone talks about this young offensive coordinator and this and that and this. And all they're doing is starting a new rivalry. And in order to start a rivalry, you have to disrespect someone to the point where they feel it personally.
Mojo, I would have no problem if there was a minute left in that game and he did it. There was over 3 minutes left. You had blown an 18-point lead, and the Rams' offense is great. I didn't like the timing of it. I didn't mind the tribute to Joe Horn. So I want to make sure you understand.
Okay.
I didn't like the timing of it. You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to bring the show to Los Angeles next week just so you'll stop by the studio. All right?
I will, and listen, and I will be there.
Okay.
You come to Los Angeles,
all right.
I will be there, because I got off a flight at 12 o'clock last night.
We're going to L.A. next week.
To see Mojo.
We're going to do shows out there in Los Angeles.
Done deal.
Fritzy, start booking people. We're going out there, and I'm going to go out there to do a show because Maurice Jones.
On the case.
All right. There you go. That's how it's done, Mojo.
You know what? When you're the man, you can do those type of things. I just hope my only aspiration is to get to where you are, so that I can just tell people where we're going to go. Because I'll be like, hey, we're going to go to New York this week.
Yeah, but we're
going to go to D.C.
You know what? You can't get to 6'3". I mean, that's...
You got to be high. Is a high requirement in the TV game?
Yes. Yeah. Because you're 5'7", and I'm 6'3", so you'll never get to where I am.
I don't know. I think I have opportunity. I'll stretch my bones.
All right.
Figure it out.
All right. Well, I'll see you next week.
All right, I'll be here.
Okay. All right.
I can't go anywhere.
All right. It's on. It's on like Donkey Kong. That's Maurice Jones through. We're going to L.A.
For more Dan Patrick Show, tune to Audience Channel 239 on DirecTV or download the Dan Patrick Show app.